Alright everyone, this is a quick video demonstrating the difference of kind of a interesting test to see whether or not a singular skeletal mesh with, multiple bones. You can see here this is just a quick mesh that I threw together. So this skeletal mesh that has like multiple bones, rotating, like for a weapon, for instance, like rotate the root and maybe the pitch, has a housing and barrel and whatever. The setup that I did with this is having a singular skeletal mesh here on a character. So you can see, on an actor. So the singular skeletal mesh here, I just have it in green. And I'm comparing that to a static mesh version that has multiple static meshes, because the argument is the verts of these particular thing, when they're pulling around, they're causing more performance hit on the game thread, and even possibly the animation thread. But this, when I quickly threw this together, I did not instance these, and these are actually individually like separate things anyway, so maybe I would have to look at doing the instance version of this. But what I found was, well, actually I'll demonstrate it anyway. So these are just basic static meshes that are all just hierarchied on each other, very similar to what you would see on a skeletal mesh. As you can see with the skeletal mesh, it has the bone hierarchy. And it has, these are just box primitives besides the root. So this root is just a little bit extra vertices moving on. So you can see here the static mesh being in blue, the skeletal mesh being in green. I plopped them both into the game here, and you can see when I jump in, hey, they're just rotating, around a yaw part, and then they have a pitch part. So they're just updating a bunch of animations, or updating their, rotation relatively. So both of them are kind of doing the same thing. Just to quickly show I have a timeline here. This is actually piping some information of just some X and Z values. So the Z value is 0 to 360. The Y is 0 to 90 and back to 0. So it's just pitch up, down, and then rotate 360. This is now setting the relative location of that scene component. So that's forcing it to update. And that's actually basically every tick. To check the difference between setting the relative rotation of that versus on the skeletal mesh. Basically the same thing. You can see here it's the same values, right? But all this is doing is just updating the variable, and that's going to an anim graph, which updates the local component and then outputs a pose relative to transform, modify on these particular bones. So what I did was, with that said, I have these two quick little spawners here. So you can see here, this is now set to spawn all of the, actually I'll set this here, set it to 1,000. So I have 1,000 of these, and I spawn the actors. It takes a second, there you go. All the skeletal actors, and they go off to kind of infinity there. There's 1,000 of them. It's still all in the scene. And when I jump into the game here, okay, yeah, that's kind of a performance hit. Yeah, that's pretty bad. But at least it's, still at like 35 FPS, game thread is still updating quite a lot. So this demonstrates it for the skeletal meshes, but the more interesting bit here, I'll actually change these to 0, so I reset them and destroy them. This top one is actually going to be spawning the static meshes. When I spawn them in, you can see they're blue. And I jump into game. Oh, that frame rate. Oh, that's double. That's double worse. So that's interesting. Setting a rotation of static meshes is more expensive on the game thread if you're just doing a profiling performance test. So yeah, that's an interesting note for anybody that's interested in something like this. If you're actually testing the differences between, multiple skeletal meshes, updating over an Anim Blueprint versus just trying to use the static meshes to update instead. I mean, this is my results. I would very much appreciate if anybody has any other interesting ideas of how to possibly make this even better. So the question is, like, is it better than to now have a hidden skeletal mesh, but it updates static meshes on those individual bones? So that'll be the third test that I'm going to do here. But I thought this was interesting just to demonstrate the raw numbers of a bunch of static meshes forcefully setting their new relative rotations is a lot more expensive than doing it through the skeletal meshes. But yeah, that's it. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you in the next one.